was a little cream bumping us into this segment. Thank you for that, Rhino. Joining us now, Tom Neyhart, CEO of PosiGen Solar. Tom, thanks for joining us. Did I pronounce your last name correctly, sir?
Yeah, Thomas Neyhart. That's
Neyhart, gotcha.
You did a much better job than a lot of people do. So. And by the way, great music coming in. I could have listened to that for a little bit longer.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me on your show, Gerard.
You bet. All right, so tell us about your organization, PosiGen. I see it. You've got a registered trademark associated with the brand name there. So it is a brand that you have the rights to. Tell us about it.
So we put PosiGen together 11 years ago. You know, we were post-Katrina and really focused on helping rebuild the New Orleans community. And there wasn't a lot we could do at the time, right? People were struggling to get back on their feet. My wife and I thought, well, how about if we put money back in people's pocket? And how can we do that? And we figured out, you know, solar had a pretty good tax credit at the time down here in Louisiana. And we thought if we paired solar with energy efficiency, we could make a real difference. And, you know, fast forward to where we are now, we got over 20,000 customers, and our average customer saved close to $700 net after they paid us in last year. So putting money back in people's pockets and allowing them to spend their money on what they want instead of sending it to the utility companies seemed to make a lot of sense.
So $700 a year, right, on an annual savings basis?
Yep. I mean, look, sometimes we hit a home run and people can save $1,000, $2,000 a year. Sometimes we hit a single and they only save a couple $100 a year. But we do have a savings guarantee that says that within your first year, you're going to pay us less than you take off your total utility spend.
Okay.
And it's not just about solar. It's also about the energy efficiency work we do in the home, and that reduces your cost of however you power your home, whether it's gas or fuel oil we have up in the Northeast, natural gas, propane, or electricity.
Okay. If there is such a thing, Tom, what's the average cost to install solar power for typical home, if there is such a thing as a typical home? What is your average transaction size? Maybe that's a better way to ask it.
That's a great question, Gilbert. We do a solar and energy efficiency lease. So basically, we're installing the solar system and doing all the energy efficiency upgrades, and then we're leasing that service to the customer. And in Mississippi, our average system size is about an 8 kW system, and I believe it's about $80 a month. And so we hope to take, somewhere around $110 to $140 a month off a customer's utility bill, putting that money back in their pocket, letting them spend that money on school supplies for the kids, groceries, necessities in people's homes. The majority of our clients are low-income families. We really work with working-class families, blue-collar families, even people on fixed income and retirees.
Okay, so you're structuring the transaction, if I understand you correctly, as a lease.
Correct.
And is that a lease? Is that like a capital lease, an operating lease? Does it have a term where the lease payment expires and the equipment, the assets have been acquired through the lease period, or is this permanent?
Very good questions here, Gerard. That's an excellent question. Our lease program is for a 20-year lease. It is an operating lease, so we're going to service, maintain, insure, and monitor the system because in actuality, what we're doing is we're providing a service, right? The service is to create power on the homeowner's roof. It's to reduce the amount of power the home consumes by the energy efficiency work that we do in the house.
Okay. So you're essentially you're selling it as a service rather than a capital equipment investment that would have to be financed or just paid for with cash and then just realize the savings and recover that investment over some period of time. So you're essentially selling it as a service. I assume that also means that that includes whatever maintenance is necessary on the equipment.
Absolutely. We're going to take care of the system. If we have an issue with a storm like we had with Ida last year, nobody has to pay to have their system fixed. We repair the system at no cost. We insure the system. And of course, we're monitoring those systems, so we know if there's a problem with one of the panels. We know if there's an issue with the solar production, and we're able to react to it and usually be out to the customer's home before they even know they have a problem.
I got you. So what is your geographic coverage, Tom?
So we started in Louisiana. Louisiana used to have a pretty good tax credit for solar. They also have what we call retail net metering, where a lot of working families aren't home during the middle of the day. Their kids are in school, they're working at the factory or at their job, and so the solar's producing the most amount of electricity during that peak time during the middle of the day. Mm-hmm. And so that solar gets pushed back into the grid and goes to the next door neighbor's house or the little grocery store across the street. And then at night when people come home, they're basically pulling their power back off the grid. And Louisiana had a retail net metering program. You got paid the same amount for what you sold to the grid and what you brought back. And so we built a pretty good company down here and serviced a lot of customers. And then those rules started to change, and we started to look outside of the state. And we went up into the Northeast, and we have offices in Connecticut, and we've got offices in New Jersey, Massachusetts, and Philadelphia. We've also done a little bit of work over in Florida. But, we've been working real close with the PSC down here in Mississippi, and I'll tell you, Brandon Presley and Brent Bailey have done a really good job putting together, we think, a program that makes a lot of sense for the families in Mississippi, and now we're increasing our presence in Mississippi. In fact, we're committed to opening up new locations in Mississippi and creating a lot of local jobs here for both sales and operations and maintenance here in the state.
Gotcha. So the net metering in the state of Mississippi is structured a little different, correct? It's not a dollar for dollar sell back to the grid.
No, we wish it was. Most of the states in the country do have what we call retail net metering, where you pay the same for the power that you push on the grid as that you pulled off. And we think that makes a lot of sense. Mississippi did not have that, and we worked closely with the utility companies, and I can't say anything bad about the utility companies. They're in business to make money, and they've got investors that they have to report to. But I think that they worked with us and were straightforward in their negotiations with us and the PSC. And I think we came to something that we could live with. And I think that it's going to make a difference for the families in Mississippi. And it's very much focused on helping blue-collar families, helping working-class families in the state.
Gotcha. What do you think about the enhancements to solar investment credits recently enacted in the Inflation Reduction Act?
We don't call it the Inflation Reduction Act. We call it the Climate Bill.
I think that's probably more appropriate. We do the same thing here, but that is the official name of it from the government, at least. What do you think about those enhancements? How will this affect your business, for example?
Well, it's going to help pretty much every solar company. But when you think about a solar company like ours that has struggled for years because we focus on helping working class families, and we don't approve people based upon their FICO score or their income. We think that we need to look at how much money that we can save them. So our underwriting process is only about, can we save that customer money? And so we've been helping families that have really needed that help. And I can tell you lots of stories about, some of the successes that we've had over the years. So this bill seems to be a way to try and invest more in underserved communities and help working class families. So, we like the provisions that surround solar, that surround the low-income family solar products such as ours. We think that we're investing both in jobs, in the families that we serve, and, of course, in the climate. And I think, whatever side of the aisle you're on, nobody argues about the fact that, clean energy is good energy as long as it makes economic sense.
Have you seen an increase in business, Tom, as a result of the passage of this, as you described it, climate bill?
We've seen an increase in people's interest in companies such as ours. The actual execution of this bill and the rules and everything surrounding it don't even start until January 1.
Right.
And some of the things around low-income families and the tax credit around that, we probably won't see those rules until mid-February or so. I know Treasury's got a lot of work in front of them and we're all waiting to see the new rules come out. And I think once we see those rules come out and how they affect, how we price to our customer and how we can expand our footprint into markets that we might not have been in before,
Gotcha.
because it didn't make a lot of fiscal sense, I think that's when we're going to see that upswing.
Gotcha. Tom, appreciate the update. Good luck to you and all that. Tom Neyhart, CEO of PosiGen Solar. Thanks for coming on Middays, Tom.
Thank you, Gerard. We look forward to building a great business in Mississippi and creating a lot of jobs.
Appreciate it. Middays, we'll step aside. We're coming right back as Rhino bumps us out with Here Comes the Sun. I think it is coming.